sit, and hold on. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Good morning. It is time for the Mouth of Matuszak show for Hump Day. Today, Wednesday, August 20th, 2014. And I'm your host, Paul-Gregory Matuszak, welcoming you to the show. We got more and more lunacy going on. We got some things to poke some fun at today. We have some fun things to discuss. We have the same kind of issues that are continuing to also discuss. And we're going to get to it. We're going to get to the show. But first, this being Hump Day, we're going to continue the trend we've had for the last couple of days. We're going to try to get you a little bit pumped up here. So let's listen to Stephen Crowder and Chris Lash as they kind of remind us of where we are and where we should be going with this little song called Mr. America.
Mr. America, look what you've done.
Yeah, looking at the country is not what I intended. Gotta start to make a change before the never-ending story of a failed nation runs straight out of luck. Like $1 million Tyler Perry movies, you suck. All you little have life, you're still selfish and want more voting in your self-interest now instead of the core principles that made this country both honest and true. Free to speak, worship, pursuit of your happiness too. With all the money you fly, you gon' be needing a big freeze. Hate the signs of the Fed like Jesus hated the fig tree. As the spending goes up, you gotta borrow some more. Borrowing from the Chinese like, oh my Lord. Instead you just tax more, you're increasing the size of the federal government. Yeah, the Georgia surprise. You'll be done like Detroit, man, no you ain't coming back. Forget it, I'm out, I'm muzzle loading my
Mr. America, look what you've done. You trade your liberty and sovereignty for lies and promises. Mr. America, don't you run away. You pick up pieces up and face the problems, you'll be great again. I got tired of rolling over in my grave every day, making a monarchy of my beloved US of A. You little glitches need reminding of what we were before, and the sitch that led us up to revolutionary war. High taxes to the throne without a voice of our own. Rule top down from the crime we wanted left alone. Oh, y'all so soft you're taking it year after year. We were fighting red coats while we're brewing our beer. Now I'm drinking spitting ciphers through a grill made of wood. That's how it all went down in G-Dub's neighborhood. Packing cap and balls like powder hammers with cock, lock, click, clack. The loss of backs like the attack. The chicken littles who don't know me, listen, don't let it twist. We kick the A's of the B's for much less than this. So don't deny the historical climbing out of the mud. Follow me, believe this creed, plant the seeds and be Mr.
free.
America, look what you've done. You trade your liberty and sovereignty for lies and promises. Mr. America, don't you run away. You pick up pieces up and face the problems, you'll be great again.
On the woman at 85 when it's really at 12. Hear me, classes in session, you can't be saved by the bell. What happens when you keep printing more dough? Both parties have gone green like the name was Al Gore. Yeah, but right now you're high. Hey, ain't you big hitter? But now I'm back from the dead. I'm bringing back all my niggas. Man, you think I say that? What's wrong with you? I'm just talking about my show back then. I rock with my shoe. But let's go back to the first point I was trying to make. The degradation of our freedoms and a country at stake. The government's getting grand while private sector grows smaller. Pour one out for your homies, cause here comes the cold water. Unemployment still rising, a desk growing still. The only change you're gonna get is being left with the bill.
Mr. America, look what you've done. You trade your liberty and sovereignty for lies and promises. Mr. America, don't you run away. You pick up pieces up and face the problems, you'll be great.
Yeah, get you going. I just cannot get enough of that song, and it's been that way for a couple of years now. I'm looking at the date that Chris and Steven put up that little video together. I would highly suggest y'all, when you get the opportunity, because if you're listening to this while you're driving, perhaps not the best time to do so, but when you get the opportunity to go to YouTube and look up the video by Powdered Zombies. It's listed on Steven Crowder's channel, among other places, but look up Mr. America by Powdered Zombies and watch that video. It is, while as powerful as the lyrics are, the video really enhances it. It's got a little bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff in there that also will kind of make you think a little bit. It gives you a little bit of a history lesson, so to speak. Great tune, great tune. Speaking of history lessons, starting last week and continuing through this week and going over the next 2 weeks or so, depending on what state you live in or which district your children go to, or whether they're in a private school, a charter school, or a parochial school, or a government indoctrination center, a public school, will depend on what day your child starts school. And for some people, it's today. For some people, it was last week. In fact, for one young lady in Alabama, she was starting, not sure which year it was specifically, but she was starting off her year at the Muscle Shoals High School in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And she walks in on her first day, and the principal tells her, "I don't like your hair color. Go home." What color was her hair? Was it purple? Was it blue? Was it green? Was it shocking pink? Was it metallic? No. It was standard, straight out of the jar, run-of-the-mill natural hair color, red. She went ginger. She's been going ginger for about 3 years. So most of her friends know her as being a ginger, because she has been that for several years, but the school told her, "No, your hair is disruptive. It may be a natural ginger color. It's not your natural color, so therefore it is disruptive." And sent her home with an unexcused absence, which means that she's got to make the time up in detention or what have you. And of course, the young lady's parents are outraged at this, and there's a YouTube video up on it. Now, my take on this is kind of, may not be the same as everybody else's. This is one of those things. It's not a political side issue. It's more of a parents' values and parents' involvement. First of all, I would have issues with an administration telling me that my kid is being sent home because of what they look like. I would take issue with that, especially since this color of ginger, or color of red, is fairly close to a natural hair color. Not her natural hair color, but a natural hair color. So I see their point. Though I see the school's point, I see the parents' point because of this. Then again, this is a child. This is not an 18-year-old, not an adult. So I would have a couple issues with my child under the age of 18 deciding to put chemicals in her hair to harm her body, because let's face it, folks, that's exactly what hair dye is. It hurts, it harms, it burns out your hair. It's really not good for you. So from that aspect, as a parent, I don't know if I'd be supportive of my child doing hair color changes. But I don't have the final say in that. In my own household, my wife has the say in those things. I can give my recommendation, but that's where it ends, folks. In any way, shape, or form, I would not highly recommend it for children under the age of 18, especially a permanent or semi-permanent hair color like that. I see the school's point, because it is not her natural hair color. But she's been doing this for 3 years. This isn't new, and it's not a new policy either. So why all of a sudden force her to go back? Because when you think about it, when she's got to strip all that color out and do all the... She's got to dye it again in order to get rid of the coloring that was put in. And that can be expensive. It could be even more harmful than the initial coloring. And that's where I take issue, is you're going to tell me that my kid now has to put a whole lot more chemicals that are harmful onto her body and into her hair. I would take issue with that because of what it takes in order to strip that coloring out. And then the color that it ends up as is usually less natural looking than the natural tone of hair, natural hue of hair that was picked from the Miss Clairol aisle in your local grocery or drugstore. So I'm kind of one of those juries out on this decision. I normally would support a school's dress code when it makes sense. Now, telling a kid, when the dress code says you can wear T-shirts and jeans, and you tell a kid that they can't wear a T-shirt with the American flag on it, I've got issue with that. But if your dress code is something that's dressing a little bit more conservative, making sure people wear within certain guidelines of shirts, no logos, especially places that have no jeans, they have to wear slacks or skirts or whatever the case might be, and they don't want outlandish hair colors like your greens, blues, metallics. I could understand prohibitions against those, or the dress code rules against those. Makes kind of sense, but if a child's going to dye their hair something that is a natural color, well, that's where it becomes really a gray area issue. But calling somebody with ginger hair, saying that they have a disruptive hair color, what if that was her natural hair color? You're going to send somebody home because of their natural hair color? And that's where you have to wonder, how did they know that it was dyed? I mean, she had been wearing the same hair color at that same high school for 3 years now. Of course, that's when you have to wonder, why are you letting a 13 or 14-year-old dye their hair in the first place? But that's up to the parents. They can make their own decision with their own children. That's not my child to make that decision about. But I will say, looking at the pictures of the young lady, hair color looks nice on her. So, that's the parent's decision, her decision. It's not like I said, it's not like she's been dyeing it green or metallic or something. So there's your news of the ridiculous. Another one of those little things of extreme things schools are doing with your kids, blah, blah, blah. Again, as far as this issue goes, I'm kind of a jury's out and may not even convene over this issue as far as I go, because I could see both sides of it. Now, if this was some kid being expelled because they came to school and they brought paper clips so that they can put other syllabi together, or syllabi. Somebody call in to 520-226-8567 and tell me what the plural of syllabus happens to be. But if the child happens to go in with paper clips in order to put those papers together and keep them kind of organized, and they're kicked out because their aluminum paper clip or steel paper clip could be unfolded or unbent and used to stab another student or poke at another student. Because, folks, that has happened. It happened last June, towards the end of the year. That is ridiculous. So if you want to look back at some of the ridiculous things that have happened over the past couple of years in primarily public schools, I did a little article up poking some fun at them, poking some fun at some of the learning policies that are out there on BuzzPo, and I did that last week, and it's 8 things to not let your child go to school with. So as your school starts up, keep your eyes out for some of the ridiculous things going on there. I like to collect the ridiculous things that schools are doing, type stories. And some of them, like I said, they boil down to I could see either side and really don't care, to there's some serious issues there in some cases. And that is why so many more parents are looking at either private schools or homeschooling, if they can afford to do so. When you have both parents working, it's hard to homeschool. But there you have it, folks. A little bit of news of the ridiculous. And there's plenty of other news of the ridiculous out there. Another thing, and there's no article that I have to point you to at this time, but if you keep your attention focused over on BuzzPo later on, or if you're listening to the podcast, you'll get the article when it comes out on BuzzPo later on, because I'm writing it up currently. Well, not currently, but actually, let me restate that. It just published. But yesterday was a primary in some states. And yesterday in Alaska, they held their primary. And on the GOP ticket, on the Republican primary, we had an interesting thing happen. Dan Sullivan became the GOP candidate for lieutenant governor for the state of Alaska. And Dan Sullivan became the GOP candidate for U.S. Senator for the state of Alaska. Of course, this is going to leave you scratching your head, thinking, what kind of rules does Alaska have? Can somebody run for two major offices at once? And what happens if they win both elections? Well, here, as Paul Harvey used to say, is the rest of the story. Candidate for lieutenant governor, now full-on GOP candidate for lieutenant governor, Dan Sullivan, is currently the mayor of Anchorage. So if you want to know all about him and what he stands for and what he's achieved and what he's done, just go look at the record for the past couple of years of the mayor of Anchorage. And those of you who are a little bit more tuned into Mrs. Sarah Palin, I'm sure you could probably go and ask her opinion. I'd be interested to hear it myself. Unfortunately, I'm not that close to the lady. Support her, but not really that close to her. Never spoken to her in person. But that notwithstanding, I'd be interested to know what her thoughts are on the Anchorage mayor, especially now that he's running for lieutenant governor. Now, that is not the same Dan Sullivan who is the GOP candidate for U.S. Senator. That Dan Sullivan is a former U.S. Marine, among many other things. And he has they both have very similar platforms. They both share a similar name, and they're both running for office within the same party. So I'm sure coming up to the primaries, that had to be a little bit confusing, and that confusion is probably going to lend to the general election in November. Which Dan Sullivan do I vote for? Well, luckily they're both in the same party. So if you lean right, or if you lean towards the GOP party, which is not necessarily a right-leaning candidate in the cases of certain people, not to mention any names, John McCain. But if you tend to vote Republican or vote straight Republican, I don't. I'll confess, I vote person by person. But if you vote straight party, then you're going to be voting for both Dan Sullivans. But I could see in the primary election